Hello and welcome to the fourth part of the video tutorial series about modding Falcon BMS. In this video I will introduce you to the model viewer that's integrated with the BMS editor, and I will show you how you can find the 3D model of a particular object and or its textures. I will repeat some information from previous videos where appropriate for the sake of completeness, but I will keep it as brief as possible and reduce it to the absolutely necessary minimum. So let's briefly recap. 3D models in Falcon BMS are located in the Teradata objects model subfolder. Here you will find numbered folders, and each folder contains one or multiple model files in BML format and the parent .dat file. For BML version 2 models, you will also find a materials MTL file and the texture files in DDS or direct draw surface image format. For the BML version 1 models, you will find the corresponding textures in the Korea OBJ and Korea OBJ high-res subfolders. For these, as shown, there are simply numbers used as names. You cannot name them as you want, as it's possible with BML version 2. That's the main difference. It's of course much more difficult in theory to find the appropriate textures corresponding to model, but it's not really that difficult. So let's come to the editor. On the right side you have the models tab, and here all models are located. So these correspond to the folder numbers here. So the folder name in shape of a number is the unique identifier, and the database will call up this number to point to a particular model. In order to open a model, simply double click and then you get the model viewer opened. At the top left behind parent there's a model number displayed again, and here in the bottom left window you can see the textures that are assigned to it. So in this case it's texture number 1327. So if we check out this particular number 1327, then this is a corresponding texture file for this particular model, but the number of textures shown there is of course dependent on how many textures are being used by a particular model. For the newer models, the BML version 2 models, you get materials displayed typically instead of textures, but the textures are included directly in the model folder itself, so that's pretty handy. For BML version 1 models you have to check out the corresponding DDS files with the appropriate numbers in the Korea OBJ or Korea OBJ high-res folders. Here in the model viewer, with a left click you can rotate the model. Keep left mouse button clicked and then move the mouse. You can zoom in and out with the mouse wheel, and with the right click and moving the mouse you can move the model up, down, left, right. Okay, for those objects that have multiple model files, it's typically meant to cover decreasingly less detailed models that are displayed at longer distances. If that's the case, you can simply cycle through them here. So you see progressive degradation of the model quality with each higher model number. So model 0 is typically, or not typically, it's always the most detailed model, and subsequent models with each increment will be less detailed. So on the left side, you can see stuff like switches and DOFs. These are model switches such as lights, for example. DOFs are animations that are linked to specific simulation functions such as control surface movements, landing gear movements, or cockpit instruments for 3D cockpits. But that's more advanced stuff for 3D modelers, so I won't dive into the details here. So you may now ask, how can I find the particular model number, because browsing through this lengthy list of models is of course not very comfortable. Let's take an aircraft, for example. Here's a A10C. Let's take it directly. If you open its vehicle entry, you get a View 3D button, and this will also directly open the corresponding model. You can see the number here up, 891, and the many textures that are used by this particular model. These are located in the Korea OBJ folder. You can also assess the model from its class table record entry. Each object in the database has a CT record entry, and under graphics normal you find the particular model number which corresponds to the model here. So 891, this would be the model for the A10C. And you can also directly open the model viewer from here. Same is of course true for other objects. If you take a weapon, for example, let's take something that's not just a shell. Let's take the Maverick. In this case here also the View 3D button, so you can directly view it, and of course a link to the open CT data, to the CT record, and then you will find the number as well. You can also open it from here. And that's it, basically how you can find both the 3D model and the textures corresponding to a particular object. So finally, if you encounter the problem that you try to open a model with a model viewer and it doesn't show up, you typically get a window here at the bottom. So let's just open it. It would show model viewer, but there's nothing displayed and you can't open it. The situation, I don't know what causes this problem. It occasionally occurs, so the model viewer is not operational. In such a case, you need to close the editor and navigate to your Falcon BMS 4.38 main directory, user config, and then the Falcon BMS editor CFG config file. You can delete this one, and next time that you open the editor, this file should be recreated and the model viewer should work once again. So just in case that you have that problem, may come next time when I close it again. There it is, recreated. automatically. So if you have that problem that the model viewer window doesn't show up, then that's the way how you can fix that issue. So that's already everything for this part. So see you next time. Bye.